To readjust myself. Hello and blessings, beautiful souls. Sarava and I share to you. I'm standing here in the kitchen of my tiny home and I've been inspired to talk to you about covens. And so many of you probably don't know that I have been a high priestess. I don't really like that term, but it describes exactly what I do. So I have been in charge of an enormous amount of witch covens. And so I have been one of those people that organized massive open circles that have attracted anywhere between 50 to 100 people, during Anglo-Saxon celebration of Sabbaths and things of that nature. And then I refined my practice to more smaller covens where we did initiatory practices. We were doing a lot of learning, approaching things from a really interesting, eclectic and traditional perspective. And so when I moved down here to southern Tasmania, leaving behind my beautiful, beloved coven up north, I was approached many times to create a coven online. And I felt very, very nervous doing this because my experience with covens has always been in person. I was raised in an in-person coven. I've participated in in-person covens. I've arranged my own and, so on and so forth. And so I have created my coven on Patreon where people support me for the learning that I provide them. I hook into topics, I interview people, I provide written blogs and instructional how-tos, descriptives, live Google Hangouts, Q&A type stuff. There is a private Facebook page to go with that, and we are open to absolutely any level of experience. There is no need to concern yourself with a lack of experience, and that is a place of true and genuine learning. We learn from one another, we are supported and respected, and the community over there is absolutely phenomenally beautiful. Really creative people and very open and eager to exchange thoughts and to learn. And so I have been doing beginner witchcraft videos, and many people have approached me about whether or not a coven would be suitable. And honestly, a digital coven is suitable to just about anyone who wants to participate in a coven because it doesn't require anywhere near as much of a commitment as a physical coven does. When you are in a physical coven, there is a commitment that you make that requires you to travel, to buy things, to bring things, food, time, all of that kind of thing. A digital coven will give you the same warmth and community feel in a digital context, and you're not left sort of having to travel for it. You're not left having to, bring the food. It really is the best way to connect if you are a solitary wanting a bit more community. Now, if you can find beautiful, authentic community close to you, then absolutely go for that, because that is amazing. When you can find community around you that is supportive, that you integrate with really well, that you resonate with, lots of, kindred spirits, it's beautiful. But I would be lying if I didn't say that such places are quite rare. They're not impossible to find, and I myself have found a couple, but the likelihood of you finding a large group of people who you get along with, each and every one, that's pretty rare, and that's just human nature. So occasionally you luck out on those types of things, and occasionally, it can be a bit of a challenge. And I find that with the nature of how we are in this day and age, and how disconnected we can be because we are so involved online. When I created a digital coven, I had that concern in the back of my mind, and that concern is still a very real thing for me. However, what I have found is that when you use social media in a positive way, constructively, and you dedicate your time to a space that is really creative and supportive and inspiring, you don't walk away from that experience feeling anywhere near as drained as you do just scrolling through a feed, like a Facebook feed for that matter. And so I'm really very proud of the coven that I have created, very proud of my beautiful coven members. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that because we are a learning coven, we are a sharing coven, we're a weaving coven. And one of the beautiful things that I do is I make sure that everyone interacts. And a prerequisite, so to speak, is a video introduction, a 1-minute video introduction, so that when a person joins the coven, you can look into their eyes and see that they are a real person. It helps to create connection. And when you do that, you also break the ice. People will come and they will say, welcome to you. And it's a beautiful thing to see. And, and it's just such a wonderful, wonderful space. At this very moment in time, we are journeying through the element of earth. So we are looking at a lot of earth magic. We've looked at crystals. We've looked at grounding and centering. We've looked at altars. We've looked at we're discussing at this moment magical aromatherapy or aroma magic. We are also going to be doing art magic soon through an interview. We are discussing witches' fetishes and many other beautiful things. And charm bags. We just finished charms. And I don't just provide one video on one subject. For charm bags, I think there's 5. There's 5 videos and a lot of written stuff, a lot of descriptive, a lot of questions and answers, because I'm very, very big on being very detail oriented when I am teaching something. I want you to know the absolute nitty gritty of it. Not like, here is how you put it together, because anyone can do that. But it's, here's how you put together. Here's why. Here's what each little part of that activity means inherently, both in a practical sense and in a magical sense, and the whole, why and how we do it. So I try to be as detailed as possible, because that is how I learned. I learned through people being very instructional to me, which is just a way that I more effectively learn. And I do a lot of video over there because I think it's easier when you're watching something to learn it. I do a lot of writing, a lot of meditation stuff over there as well. And twice a year we do a initiation ceremony that is really, really unique. And so I just wanted to jump on here and say that because I get so many questions about it. Is it right for me? And, what is required? And honestly, you move in your own tempo, in your own rhythm, in your own pace. There are volunteer group assignments from time to time. Every couple of months we get together and we do like a ritual gathering via Zoom, and we talk about any sort of subjects that we have just covered, and if there's any further questions, we get to interact with one another, and it's really fun when we get the opportunity to do that. And being a member of my coven, which is the top tier in my Patreon, allows you entry into everything below that. So if you are interested in witchcraft, you'll also get the tarot portion, which is the card slinger tier, which is its own involved thing, plus entry into the magical library, which is my Patreon book club that discusses lots and lots of occult books. And we are very interested in occult books. And so when you are a beginner and you require a lot of instruction and you need that support, finding community is really, really important. And honestly, I think that finding in-person community is better than finding digital community. But what I have come to discover is that you will meet the best of the kindred. You draw to yourself your type of people in larger quantities when you're online, because you don't have the same physical geographical barriers and boundaries that you might have in person. And so I can honestly say I've been at this for a really long time, and I tried to create a bit of a open circle when I was in central Queensland in a little place called Emerald. And that was during the time of the Witchcraft magazine. And I advertised in the Witchcraft magazine. And I got so many calls from people in Emerald, Victoria, asking, is this real? Emerald, Victoria is amazing. I'm like, no, Emerald, Queensland. And it was just talking to those people on the phone was really, really interesting because everyone just wanted to be near community, and smaller regions, they just don't offer as many. I mean, there will be some little pockets of the world that will have more than one witch in them, but for the most part, there are people stranded in the Bible Belt that don't feel as though they can actively and outwardly practice. There are people stranded in conservative communities and neighborhoods and things like that, or they're living in a house with conservative, peers, for instance. And being a part of an online coven, it can really help to overcome those hurdles and still be a part of community and to draw a bit of strength as well. And so I've just come to really understand the nature of people in covens more, having a digital coven, because now I feel like I've honestly done it all. I've had, in-person covens, and now I've had digital covens. And a year in, I can honestly say that I absolutely love the digital coven because it provides you with that grounding in magic and that community, but it also allows you that solitary practice that I think is really, really necessary. When you are in an in-person coven and you meet, you have to go through the effort of doing all of those things. And once you have, you don't sort of go home and feel like you need to do ritual by yourself. And that's one thing that I really missed about being in a coven, is the fact that I was pouring all of my energy into coven rituals, which were amazing, don't get me wrong. Twice a month, coven rituals. And yeah, I'd still do the occasional little ritual myself during a planetary transit and all that type of stuff. But I found that for the most part, I was getting that ritual experience by being with my coven. But now I get that ritual experience in a solitary capacity. And if I want, I can reach out to the coven and involve them as well. And likewise, we go and have our ritual experiences, we experiment, we put our theory into practice, and then we all converge back and people talk about their natural experiences with things. And there's such a great active listening component to a digital coven, good reading, good interaction between people. And honestly, it's been such a breath of fresh air with so much freedom to it that I'm thoroughly impressed. Like, I'd be lying if I said that I didn't look down at my nose at digital covens at one point. And that was when I was in the thick of a physical coven. I'm like, how can you replicate this experience? And it's not about replicating the experience. I understand that now. What it is about providing a completely unique experience, in fact, and making that unique experience as meaningful as you possibly can. And that is something that is definitely, definitely worth investing your time and your energy in. But like I said, community is so important. If you have the luxury of having a good, healthy, and inviting and enticing and supportive community around you, make the most of it, because that is rare. And if you don't, there's not just my coven. I'm not just promoting my coven. There are many other digital covens that might be more in alignment with your practice, your ideals, your desires, hopes, aspirations as a witch. And so it's really important to know yourself, to know what kind of a magical practitioner you aspire to be, and to find someone who emulates those aspirations in part. And the idea here is to grow as a practitioner and to release that ego and to come in and share really beautiful ritual space with people who are in alignment with that same ideal. I don't have people come into my coven and stuff around. That's not what they're there for. They come in and they're serious about their craft and they don't take that shit for granted. And it's so good to see such a respectful space. And for those who don't resonate, we've had a little flux. Occasionally one leaves, another one comes in, one leaves, another comes in. It's evolutionary, it's growing, it's an ebb and flow. But every month there are more. And I think that the size of the coven as it is now is really indicative of the fact that we do really good work there. And that is an honorable, beautiful, and just amazing, amazing thing. So I wanted to come on here and speak to you about coven and the importance of community, because coven doesn't suit everybody. And that is something also to respect. Solitary practitioners, it's a different vibe. I've been a solitary before. Yes, it's no mystery that I prefer Coven, because I was raised in a Coven, folks, so you get used to that. You know, it's what you know. But I have loved my time as a solitary. But I also find that as a solitary, I run out of inspiration and I need to sort of bounce ideas off other practitioners. So even in my most solitary times within my practice, I would still meet up with witch friends. There was no coven, there was no outer circle, and I would touch base with them and we would talk theory and we would talk these ideas. And it's really, really healthy to do so, to exchange ideas with others to help you grow, to ignite your intuitive faculties, to ignite that creativity, to give you alternative perspectives as well, because it's very, very important. My puppy's trying to get in. It's really important to be able to see things from different perspectives and try out new magical techniques and sort of hear how other people are going with specific magical techniques. So especially if you're in the crux of learning something new and you meet up with another person who has experience in that, it's a beautiful thing to be able to exchange those ideas, those thoughts, those experienced moments. And that is why it's so good to have community. Even if it's not Coven, it's good to have community. Now, for the most part, you can still find those really knowledgeable, interesting, or, you know, or sympathetic individuals online outside of a Coven environment. But I find that it's a little looser outside of a Coven environment as well. Like you will find them in groups and, you know, forums and things like that. And yes, there'll be 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 people, but you might have to put up with a lot more crap in order to get to those really good people. Whereas when somebody dedicates to being in a Coven, that in itself sort of culls out sort of the more transient, I guess you could say, witches, people who are just trying it out. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's really important to try things on for size, to see how they feel and fit and all of that kind of good fun stuff. So no, there's Velcro. There's Velcro shoes being removed. The kids are here as well. They're making a bit of fun noise in the background, doing a bit of arts and craft kind of stuff. Anyway, beautiful souls, I just thought that I would touch base on that very subject and sort of put it out there. Not because I want you to join my Coven. I mean, I would love to have you. Don't get me wrong. I would love to have you in my space if it resonates with you, yes. But I do feel like community is incredibly important. And, you know, especially if you are a new witch, having community that is supportive, that will help you to grow, that will guide you, that will have the patience to, you know, to see you through, that is a valuable, valuable resource that should never be taken for granted. And it is possible to find that for absolute free. It absolutely is. And it is possible to find that at a fee. And yes, it's not, I'm not joking. I charge a fee for my Patreon because I also provide an incredible amount of content over there. That's a lot of my time. That's a lot of my energy. That's what I do in my day-to-day. I upload once a week for my Coven with a video or a really detailed blog post. I also upload once a fortnight for Card Slinger, once a fortnight for the Magickal library. But in between that, I'm also doing other things on there as well, providing little links and ideas and responding to comments and interacting with community. And I run my YouTube channel as well, and I'm a professional tarot reader. So I am very, very, very busy, and it took me a while to get over that sort of money shadow stuff, but I was really supported in my decision to do that because, and that was coming from my Coven. They sat me down, they said, this is valuable. I have learnt so much through you in the, you know, 3 years that we've been together, and it's just invaluable. You just don't get that anywhere else. And you're going to find that in intimate sort of settings, you're going to find that the experience is richer. Now, you talk to most Coven witches and they're Coven witches for a reason, because they're having a really good time or they were able to learn and grow. And most people will only leave a Coven when they move. Now, in this instance, being that I was the High Priestess, I moved. And if I was still up there, our coven would undoubtedly, I have no doubt about this, still be going strong. So it's a beautiful thing. So if you can find community that is supportive, that, you know, really, really ignites that passion for witchcraft and learning, then absolutely go for it, guys. Really, really go for it, because community is so vital to the evolution of your craft. You may not want to accept that as a truth, but honestly, that is how we as human beings, we connect and we learn. We learn from each other. We're inspired by music. We're inspired by art. We're inspired by media. And all of that is human created. So we are in fact learning and growing in such a beautiful way by interacting with the output of others. So it has been an absolute pleasure chatting with you tonight. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. It is Friday here. I'm going to spend the weekend with my children, and I have a video for you of a sacred circle that I am building on my property in full hedge witch style. It has bones, it has shells, it has wood, and it's a work in progress, and I'll be documenting the growth of that. So I hope you enjoy it. Much love and many blessings, beautiful souls. Take care and have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Be kind to each other, okay? See ya.